Alright, so if you don't have any questions, we'll proceed with today's topics, that is transformations. Right, so just to do a quick recall, I'm trying to take you through a step-by-step process where initially we are trying to understand what is data services and where do we fit. Just give me a second. Okay. So first thing that we are trying to look is what is data services and where do we fit in data services. Just give me a second, guys. I think I had to mute this. All right. I think, yeah, we are good. So in the last session, sorry. Alright, so we are going through a phase by phase where we are trying to understand what is data services and where exactly it sits. It sits between your source and your target system. And then we saw how do you connect to data services using your local repository. And the next thing that we saw is how does data services support a multi-user environment when you have more people in that one. And now we have also seen how to extract the data from the source, different types of sources, and load that into different types of targets. Now, what we will see is once we extract the data and load, or before we load that into the target, so what are the different things that we can do with the data? Because we saw extraction and we saw loading, but we need to see what is transformation, right? So data services is an ETL tool. ETL stands for extraction, transformation, and loading. So we saw what is an extraction, how do we extract from flat files, how do we extract from different types of flat files or database tables, SAP tables, and similarly we saw different types of load patterns as well. Now we will see how do we transform the data with the help of built-in transformations. So what do you exactly mean by transformation? Right, converting the data from one form to another. So what is that other form that you are trying to convert? The other form is the target acceptable format, right? So let us say you have a material number 1000 coming in from your source, but your target system accepts A100 or A1000. So you need to transform your data from this to this, all right? Let us say your source system is coming with some our source data is coming with some null values and your target system will not accept this. So you have to convert this into a slash, right? So these are the different types of transformations on a very fundamental level. I'm talking about this, but this is how we transform the data. We also can call this process as enrichment, right? So we enrich the data so that the end users will be benefited with that data. And this is what we do using these transformations. So these transformations are divided into three different categories. So I can say majorly, right? So the first one is platform transformation. The second one is integrator or integration, and third one is quality, right? So the platform transformations, these form the basic set of transformations. That's the reason why the name is given as a platform, because no matter what kind of a project that you work on, you will utilize all these transformations, or 90% of these transformations for sure. So these are like the basic transformations that you need to know in and out. So you need to know in and out of these transformations. And if you know in and out of these platform transformations, I can guarantee that you can start working on any of the data migration project, right? Because these platform transformations, even if you go and look at the SAP Rapid Deployment Solutions or SAP BPDM's best practices for data migrations, or the AIO methodology, all these are different methodologies that are given by SAP for data migrations. So if you look at these methodologies, right, so these are nothing but your pre-built template jobs, the methodologies which are or the templates which are based on these methodologies, if you go and look at this, 99% of the transformations that are used in these pre-built template jobs are only from the platform. Right, so integrator gives you an additional advantages like you can deal with the CDC data, change data captures, or timestamps. Right, and there are a few more integrated transformations which will help you to do the Excel functionalities like pivot and reverse pivot. And quality transformation is broadly divided into two categories. One is data cleansing, and the second one is address cleansing. Right. So for data cleansing, whatever the data that gets into your data services system, you can standardize the data by using the built-in backend algorithms. For example, you're trying to get some address like BLVD or ST, and it will standardize it to street. Right. And if you have something like SE, it will standardize to southeast. So it will generally take the bits and pieces of the information and it will try to standardize that into the standards, so that once you process your data through that one, it gets into the right format. And address cleansing is supported by the backend address directories. So these address directories will take the input data, refer to those directories, and it will give you the complete address. Right. So if I have to send a courier to Samuel, who is in Hickory, North Carolina. So if I just give this address, probably, I cannot send this courier to this guy. So probably, I should give a proper apartment number, flat number, street number, and then I have to give a proper postal code so that this address will, or whatever I'm trying to send, will reach him. So generally, when we go and look at the SAP system, you end up having very bad data on your customer records. So what SAP does is it will go and procure the address directories from USPS every year, and it will try to convert that and put it in a coded format, so that once you pass your data, if some of your information is matching with that, it will go and look into that and it will pull the full address. So that is the reason why these address directories are associated with a separate licensing. So if you just install a Dataservices on your system with some trial licenses or the procured licenses for 1 year, your quality transformations will not be activated, because you need to procure a separate license to activate your quality licenses for your data cleansing and address cleansing, because unless and until you do this, right, so these transformations will be grayed out or they'll not be functioning. So to procure a separate quality license from SAP, you should be a channel partner or a registered partner with SAP, and that is only where you can go and procure these quality licenses. Right, and one more category of transformation that is recently added is text data processing, which will actually read the data from unstructured data, which is nothing but paragraphs. So if you want to read the data from something like XML, right, XSD and DTD or JSON, right, data services platform transformations can handle all these things together. And there is one more transformation from integrator that can handle these structures. But text data processing transformation especially deals with the paragraph data, unstructured paragraph data, and from that it can pick the keywords as you define the rules, and it will put that in a tabular format. So this is a quick introduction to the transformations, which are nothing but the pre-built logics that are available in the system that actually helps you save a lot of time, and also it will help you to speed up your process or run your jobs in a better optimized way. Because if you have to write some logic, each and everyone writes in their own pattern, right? I can write a case statement in one way and somebody else can write a case statement in another way. But this is something that is predefined by the system, so no matter if I do this code or Adil does this code, so it will be the standard, right? Whatever the logic that we are trying to use in the backend will remain standard, and that way we can keep the integrity on the code, and we can also standardize the performance. And that will save, or that is one of the key point why I opted for data services, because there is less coding in this one compared to my previous SAP experience like SAP ABAP or SAP BI, right? And I was like a lot of scared about coding, so I did not step into Oracle in the beginning of my career. But luckily, last project where we worked for one pharma company, so there I have started learning a lot of Oracle, started writing stored procedures, and then realized it is not at all tough. It's a very simple thing, but you just need to understand the process of it, right? But there is no need for you to write any code in data services, so everything is taken care by these built-in transformations. So you can see all the transformations available in your transformations tab or transforms tab of your local object library. Now you go to your local object library, and first thing that we'll look at is platform transformations, the basic transformations that you need to know. So we will start with the case transformation first. So what is a case transformation? How does this work? So if you have some data, right, customer 1, USA, region 1, and so on. You have 4 customers in 4 different regions, and you want to segregate the data based on region. So you write a case statement. So how do we write a case statement in C or C++ or Java? So we give a condition, and if that condition is satisfied, a set of code should be executed. And if the second condition is satisfied, third condition is satisfied. So if you have to write that code, probably you might at least end up writing a minimum of 10 to 15 lines of code. But this, using the case transformation, if you are familiar how to use this, you can do your job, execute that within 30 seconds, right? So to work on this one, if you look at you have the definitions on the right hand side. So some definitions are good, some are really bad. So I really don't encourage to go by that. But if you look at this definition, it says that defines the processing of different rows in different manners, right? Or if you look at this diagram here, it says it splits a single data set into multiple data sets based on the column condition that you provide, right? So let us go ahead and look at. So some of the definitions that are given with this tool are pretty bad, so don't go by them. So I created a job case, and I'm creating a data flow case. Now this is the transformation that you are trying to use, so select it and drag and drop it into your data flow. So look at this transformation. It has a connector on the left hand side and on the right hand side, which means it is a intermediate transformation, right, that stays in between your source and target. Now go to your source database and try to get some table. So I'll get the orders table and I'll make it as source. And let us look at the data to understand what type of data we have. So we have three different regions, right? Ship via 1, 2, 3. So 3 different routes in which this data is flowing through. One is reach ship via 1, 2, and 3. So now I want to separate all these things, because a good example for when you can use a case statement, a good real-time example is if you are trying to apply a taxation code on your data and you have your global data present on your table. So you want to take for, let us say you have the data coming in from Asia, USA, Canada, and Mexico. Now you want to apply a different tax code for each and every region, right? So for US region, it should be some 12.5%. For India, it should be some 25%, or Asia, it should be some 25 or 10%, or whatever the percent based on this thing. But it is not the same logic for all the records. So what you need to do is you need to separate the data based on that condition, apply the logic, and merge it back together so that you can split the data, apply all different logics on different sets, and again combine them into a single set. So this can be done, or in those cases you can go and use your case transformation. Another good example is, let us say you have some three different categories of data, which is like, let us take an example of material types, right? You have fully furnished material, raw material, or semi-furnished material. So you want to separate your data and see how many fully completed materials are there, or semi-completed materials are there, or zero completed or raw data is there on your materials. So you can use this case statement to split them into different sets. So just go by this diagram or icon that represents this case. A single data set is split into multiple data sets based on one condition. Now we are trying to do that using the column via. So if you open the case statement, all right, I think I should tell you this one too. So if you are clicking one time on the icon, probably it will not open. You have to do a double click, quick double click, or you can do a single click on the name with a hand mark on that one, and it will open this. So when you are using a case statement, just make sure that you use a proper name for this one so that people who look at this code can easily understand what you are trying to do even without opening this. Now if you open the case statement, it is divided into two segments. One is your schema, which represents your input structure, and next is the case window where you can apply this logic. So in the case window, again, it is divided into two things. One is your labels and the next one is your work area. So if you look at this one, it has three options here. Produce the default output label as default, or you can say others, or you can, based on your business need, you can go and give a description here, right? So what is this produce default output label? So when I'm trying to categorize my data into A, B, and C, if there is any data that is left, right, so that can be captured using this label called as others. Now row can be true for only one case, right? So your record or one particular record cannot be valid for two different cases, because if you do so, you end up having your duplicate data, right? So you have to check this box and preserve the order in which you are trying to create this case statement. So select the column on which you want to apply this logic and drag and drop it here. Sorry, not that one. So you can click on add to add a label. So I give the label as via_1, and once you start adding the label, this case window will be open. Just click on that. It is showing an error because you haven't given any condition. Now select the column ship via and drag it into this one and say is equal to 1. Now make sure that your data type is either a varchar or as an integer, because if it is a varchar, you have to provide the value in single quotes. If not, your data services system will error out because that is trying to treat this as a character. If it is an integer, you can directly pass the value. Right, so this is one general thing that you can avoid your errors. Generally, without our notice, we'll try to keep that in single quotes or just pass the value assuming that it is an integer. But in the back end, it can have a data type as varchar, and that is one reason why you will get an error, and probably you'll take a lot of time identifying that one. Now once you pass the value, click on the label, the error mark is gone. Right, so this is one way in which you can add it, right? Or select in this gray area, right click and go for add expression, or press insert on the keyboard and give via to as a label. Drag and drop this column here. Pass the value equal to 2, and for the default you can say others, or you can give a label via 3, and you can just leave it, because whatever is not via 1 and via 2, it will go to others label. Now just validate. Once you are in transformations, just you know, the case has been renamed to others_1 to avoid a name conflict. Okay. Right. Just make sure that you validate the transformation to make sure that you don't have any errors in that one. Now just go back and create 3 different tables via 1. Put it in your target data store. Via 2, and the third one is others. Alright, now you connect your case transformation to via 1, and you will see the labels that you have created within your case transformation. So remember, we created via _1, via _2, and others_1. So these are the labels that we created. Now you connect this one to this and tag that label to that table, so that once you process the data with that label will go and sit in this one. Do the same thing for via 2 and for the others table. Now on a particular condition, you are trying to split your data into 3 different sets. Now we validate the data to ensure there are no syntax errors, no errors found. Now you can go and run your job, and once your job is done, you can go and look at the data. It's successfully completed. You can also try to understand or analyze that from the monitor. Right? It says that via 1 you have 249 records, via 2 you have 326 records, and others you have 255 records. Right, total number of records that are extracted from the orders table is 830, and in this process the exact time taken for individual process is 0.054 seconds, 0.004 seconds. Right, you can look at the time here and the total time taken by this job. So this is definitely a fastest ETL tool, and if you open the data flow, you can see the data with 249 records. So if you see, if your source data set is less than 1000, the number will be displayed here, because this screen is eligible to display only 1000 records. So if you have more than 1000, it will show 1000, and you want to look at the count, go to the profile tab. The first tab that you see on the table is data tab. Go to the profile tab and click on the records button, and it will give you the count. Right, so this is via 1 table. Now I want to validate if this table is having records which are not equal to 1, which the value is not equal to 1, just to cross check if your output is correct. So what we generally do, go to the backend database tables, because we are trying to push it into a database, and write a statement that select star from via 1 where ship via is not equal to 1, right, and execute that. Or we can say select count of star to get the count of those records. But now within data services, how can you validate that? Right, you select this column, click on that cell, right click, and you can say add ship via 1 to filter, and then click on the drop down and select this option is not equal to 1. So this is nothing but a where statement where ship via is not equal to 1, and right, so there are 0 records. Or if you want to apply a filter on the data, you can also go and click on this one, filters icon, then click on the column, go for ship via, select your operator. So this is a lengthy one, but yeah. Alright, click on OK, and OK is equal to 1. You have the data, you want to modify it, is not equal to 1, and click on apply. The moment you click on apply, your data is deleted because there is no record that is not equal to 1. To remove the filter, you can click on this remove filter icon, right? And it will show the data which is equal to 1. The same way you can go and validate your wire2 table which has values 2. Now add filter is not equal to 2. Apply and OK. So there are no values that are equal to 2. And go to this one and see if you have any values that are not equal to 3. Right, rather than going to the backend database and validating your data, you can just do a quick validation within your data services system as well. Right, so this data services provides you an option where you can actually go and validate your data quickly before you go and tell the customer that your loads are done. Right, so this is how you can use a case statement to split a single data set into multiple data set. So any questions on case? Right, so if you created a job and you want to rename that one, you can select the job and press F2 on the button on the keyboard, or select your job, do a context menu, and you can go for a rename. And I'm trying to add a merge statement which is exactly opposite to case, right, on the same job. So I just rename the job to case and merge. So this is the first data flow which will do a case statement, and after that I will take the output of the case statement and try to merge that into a single set. Right, so and this should run only after the case. So provide the link, open the merge data flow, go to your target table, expand your template tables, and go and pick your tables via 1, via 2, and others. You can select all the 3 tables at a time and drag and drop them into your data flow. Now these are the 3 different data sets, right? Others has via 3, this has via 1, and this has via 2. Now your merge transformations. So if you look at the definition, it says combines incoming data sets producing a single output data set with the same schema as the input data structures. So one thing that you need to remember in this definition is it should have the same schema, right? So that is only condition that is required if you want to merge. Merge is like a union of multiple data sets, right? So there is no yeah, the template, so there's a question from Adil, are the template tables with the check mark are checked out from the central repository? The answer is yes. We did not do a proper undo on them on those tables, so you still find them with the check mark, right? So merge statement is something that combines multiple data sets into a single data set. You can also look at the graphical representation. It combines multiple data sets into a single data set, and it works like a union, A union, B union, C. It gets all the records from the 3 sets, right? And there is no condition for this, right? And this is one of my favorite transformation when I started learning data services, because this is the only transformation that did not error out when I was trying my hands-on on the tool. Right, because if you open this merge transformation, there is nothing that you have to do, right? So it takes the input data sets and merges them into a single data set. The only condition that this merge statement will look for is the metadata of all the source data sets should remain the same, right? So when you are trying to merge multiple data sets, so their metadata should remain the same. So what if you don't have their metadata, like, again, like let us say this table is coming from Oracle, this is from SAP, and this is from SQL. Though all the 3 tables talk about material and their data sets or metadatas are different, so how do you handle that? So for that, we'll look at that in a bit. But you can select the job and execute this one. So this should execute the case first, and then it should go to merge. right? So it started with case is completed, then it went to merge, and merge is completed, right? So you have 830 records in orders all table that you created as an output for merge. Click on the magnifying glass and you see all the 830 records. It is not a join that we have done, it is a union, right? So if you have any scenarios like this, you can use this merge transformation to combine multiple data sets and produce them into a single data set. Now, back to our question. So let us say these two sets are having common metadata, but this is, though it has the same material information coming in from other source, but its metadata is different, then you can use the query transformation, right, between your merge transformation and your source table, and this is where you have to modify your column names, right, so that they will meet the other two table structure. So not only the column names, if you have to modify the data types as well, you can do that using your query transformation. Right, so I can double click on each and every column, change their name, their data type, their length, and also make sure that when you are using a merge transformation, the order of the columns also should be same, right? If this table has the columns in this order, the same order should be present in the remaining tables as well, right? So this is one way to handle if you have three different data sets, three different data sets having the same data, but their metadata is different, then this is how you can handle it. You can use a query transformation in between, and in the query transformation schema out, go and double click on the columns, just map them in the same order in all the query transformations, and just double click on them and make sure that you give the same metadata in all the three query transformations, then go ahead and merge and validate to make sure there are no errors in that one. Alright, so any questions with case and merge? Alright, so the next most important transformation out of all the transformations in data services is query transformation. We'll get back to map after a bit, because for us to understand the map operation, we need to know a bit more about data services, so we'll get to that. So we will start looking at the query transformation, which is called the hero of the transformations in data services, right? So if you go and look at this one, this is a very short definition, or this is a very inappropriate definition for query transformations, because query transformation, if you go and look at an existing project, query transformation is used 95% of the times when you compare with other transformations. Or if you take a pool of all the transformations that are used in your job and open them and see, 95% you will see the query transformation is used, right? Query transformation, we already seen how this can be used, right? So it allows you to do what? Create a structured flat file. This is what we saw when we are trying to create a structured flat file by creating a file format, right? And it allows you to do a column level filter, allows you to pick and choose what columns you need to move in from your source to target. And it also allows you to do a row level filter by applying a where condition, saying that where ship via is not equal to 1 or not equal to 2 or not equal to 3. So you can apply some conditions, or you can say region is not equal to null, right? So when you're trying to post data, you don't want some data to be posted with null values, so you can filter them out using a where condition. So allows you to do a row level filter, column level filter, and much more. So we have seen these four things: how to generate a structured flat file from query, and then select the required columns, rename them, their data types and their lengths and their descriptions, and to apply a where condition. We will go ahead and see what else we can do using a query transformation. So query transformation is used as a combination with multiple transformations. So I'm calling the job as job underscore QT, which stands for query transformation, and TF underscore QT. Alright, so there was a recent question from one of my customers saying that somebody gave them some training on data services before I started working with them, and they told them to, if you don't have anything to do between your source structure and your target table, you can directly link that and run, which means you are not trying to do any transformations. If you are trying to do a one-on-one load using this one, right, so there's no need for you to use any transformation. That is a good advice. I definitely agree with that. But there is a question from customers saying that since this is my flat file and my flat files can change their metadata, right? So it can be changed. So today it has 10 columns. Tomorrow the business is trying to load with another 5 columns. So it will have another 5 columns of data, right? So there was a question like, if this changes, so how will my job fail? So if this is a permanent table, so definitely the job will fail because it is not dropped and recreated, so you cannot abruptly go and add your additional columns to that one. But if it is a template table, right, it will be dropped and recreated. So every time the structure changes, your table will be dropped and recreated, and it will take up the new columns without any question. So that is an advantage and also a disadvantage, because you will not be in a position to have a check on the table, because if your metadata keeps changing, probably you might end up picking a lot of bad data into your system, which you don't want to do. So there's a question from the customers like, how do I control this? So this can be controlled pretty easily with the help of query transformation, right? So in the query transformation, what I'll do is, let us say whatever the structure that is present in my flat file is accepted by my business, and they say that this is the final flat file that you'll get on a daily basis. Now I'm mapping it to my output structure and connecting this query back to my target table. Now, if the structure remains the same on the source, which means there will be no inconsistency in the mapping. My schema in and schema out are correct. But if there is a structure change on this file, let me look at the file name. It is customers.txt. So let us say after a few days there is a structure change. The name of the file is ffcustsource. Okay. So remember, we are also trying to look at how do you change the metadata. Integer and ADRC, right? So there is a change in the column name and the metadata. Now you go back to your this one and try to validate. It will error out because there is a change in the structure, and that is captured with the help of data services, because this column is not mapped and this column is trying to send some information in the form of integer, and it has to be captured into a varchar. But yeah, definitely if it is on a metadata level, like the data types and their lengths, probably the system might accept if it is an acceptable data, because integers are accepted as a part of your varchars. But if there is a name change in the column, this will error out, and that will allow your job to fail without posting the bad data. The same case, if you have some additional columns added and they are not mapped, they will not be posted into your target table. So this query transformation plays a very key role in the data migration, and it will really help us to do a lot of scenarios. So now let us look at the query transformation and what are the different options that are available. On the left hand side, schema in, on the right hand side, schema out, and I'll call this as Qt demo rather than a job, because we will see what are the different options that are available in the query transformation. Now connect here. This is again an intermediate transformation. It has a connector on the left hand side and on the right hand side. Open this. Now look at this query transformation. It is divided into three areas. One is your schema in. The second one is your schema out. And the third one, I'll call this as my work area, because there are multiple tabs here. So this is my work area. So on the schema in, we will see all the options, and then we will proceed to schema out, and then we will look at the work area. So probably we will not be able to complete this in another 15 minutes, but yeah, we'll try to continue looking into that on your next session as well. And one more thing is that I will purposely exclude some of the options. For example, if you right click on this, you will see something called generate DDT XML schemas and these things, right? So new output schema, unnest, nest, make current. So I'll exclude all these things right now, because we are talking about a flash structures, and sorry, we don't have anything to do with those options, so they are grayed out. But yeah, when we talk about the unstructured data, the XML data, then we will look at those options. So don't just think that I'm skipping some of the options right now, because we will talk in a right scenario. So as promised, this will be a scenario-based training, and we'll try to look at each and every option as much as possible within the tool. Now, this talks about the schema in, talks about your source structure, how your source tables are defined, and if you have more than one table as your source, this will show you both the tables in your schema in and also the metadata. It will show me the order details and also the orders. So these are two different tables. You can look at those metadata in that. Alright, so this is one major thing that we can see. And the second thing, this is the schema level, and this is the column level. Right, on the schema level, if you do a context menu or a right click, you get the option to copy, which means you can copy the entire schema and paste it on the right hand side to create a nested structure. This is an MRDM structure. Right, we'll talk about that a bit later, but yeah, I'm just showing you the option how to copy that at a table level or a schema level, right? And the other option that you can, because there are few options that you can't see them here, but you can see them here. Right, you can copy, you can do a quick search. So let us say you have a table with somewhere around 160 or 180 columns, and the customer is asking you to cross-check if there is any column called MTPOS, right, or MTART. So you cannot just scroll one by one column to see that, because that is really hectic. So you can actually search that column by, right, or let us say I want to see how many ID columns are present. So you can search with the name or with the description. So if your source is coming with some description, because on SAP side, if you go and look at the tables, you will see them as Matner, whose description is material number, and works as a plant, LVORM for column, where the material number is marked for deletion at the plant level. So KZKRI indicators. So you'll have different shortcut names on the SAP side and their descriptions too. So when you try to pull in the SAP table, you'll get, or if your descriptions are maintained on the source system, you can get that information on the query transformation as well. So you can do a quick search by the description or by the name. So I'm trying to do a search with the name, which contains the word ID, right? So first, order ID has the word ID, then product ID, then again order ID from the other table, customer ID, employee ID, right? So you can do a quick search. it will take you to all the columns which has the word ID in it, right? Or you can search by the column names as well. Right, you can give a part of the column name or a full name of the column, and it will go and search that column. So this is a quick find option at the schema level. Right, and you can refresh the structures. And since you are on the parent, right, this is grayed out. The next option that you have is collapse. So you can minimize these input structures by doing a quick collapse. If you want to just minimize, you can say select that, right click and collapse. So these options, we'll leave them right now. So map to output, if you want to add that structure to the output, you can select anything, the columns or the structures, and you can do a context menu and you can say map to output, and it will be added to the output structure. And the other option that you have here is create file formats. So as we have a file format structure that is available here on the schema out, which we have already done, right? We can also create a file structure of your source table. So this is very important when you are especially trying to provide a flat file for LSMW program. Your data has to be structured, right? So you can create this one, Hadoop file formats. You can go and create the Hadoop files, and you can look at the properties of that table, right? And that's it on the table name level or a schema level conditions. And if you look at the column level conditions, you have a little bit different. On the schema in, you cannot modify by double clicking on that. Nothing will happen. It will just open the properties window. You cannot modify the column name. If you want to modify, you drag it to the right hand side, which is schema out. And on the target table, when you are creating it, you can modify the structure, but you cannot do that on your source, which is a valid point. Now here, you can copy this one and paste it on the right hand side. Or not even this query, you can copy from these three columns from one query and post it in or paste it in the other query, right? And then you can do a quick find, refresh. You can go to the parents, right? So you are searching for one column here down the lane, and you found that okay, this column, and you want to see from which table this ship country is coming from. You can just right click and go for parent. It will show you the table name. When the table is having less number of columns, probably you don't need that, but yeah, if you have more number of columns, then that will be really helpful. You can collapse this one from the field level as well, and then you can select a particular column or a group of columns and say map to output, so that these will be added to the output. So this is a column level filter. You're just selecting only those columns that are required for you. And the next option that you see here is properties. Right, at a field level, you cannot create a file format. That makes some sense because you can only create it at table level, but on a field level, you don't create a file format. Right, so these are the options that you see on the context menu in the schema in, at the table level and at the field level, right? So I want to add a few columns from this and few columns from that. So select all the columns, right click and map to output, or what you can do is you can select them, drag them to the bottom of this one where they will be added, right? So now I have few columns from table A and I have few columns from table B. Now I have to define a join condition between table A and table B so that we get the relevant information. So go to the where condition, and this system is smart enough that if you just go and click on propose join, it will go and give a join condition based on the common fields, right, that are present between these two tables, right? There's no need for you to go and do it by yourself. The system can propose a join for you, and just in case if you don't have a common fields, right, so one has as materials number and the second one has Matner, then what you need to do is select that column, drag and drop it, is equal to this one, and you have more conditions. You want to do a join by two other columns, you can say product ID is equal to some order ID or something. You can pull its equivalent column from table 2. So this is an AND operation that you are trying to do, and you can also do an OR operation when you are trying to join. One second. So you can do an OR operation as well when you are trying to do. Either this condition is correct or this condition is correct. These two columns is correct. So you want to get the data out of this, right? You can propose an AND condition or an OR condition in the where clause or where tab of your query transformation. So this is how we get common data from both the tables. So this is an inner join. You put a hashtag here and type anything, the system will ignore, right? So you can just give some comments why you are doing this, or if there is any mapping available, you can just comment that and pull on a new mapping, or we'll talk about the hard coding a bit in a bit, but yeah, so you can do all those things using your where tab. Now on simple, if I go ahead and run my job, I'm calling this table as orders complete stage. It will get the information from both my orders and order details and put it into one single table called as orders complete. Because I have defined a join condition between these two tables in the where clause, right, I picked some columns from table A and table B, and I gave it's simple like a select statement. If you want to look at this one, go to validation and display optimize SQL. It will give you the condition what you are trying to execute in the backend. Select these columns from table A and select these columns from table B, where table A dot order ID is equal to table B dot order ID. Right? You can go and look at the backend optimize SQL that happens in the backend. Now, if you click on this orders table, you should be able to see more than 1,000 records because order details has more number of records. So click on records and it is 2,155 records that are present in order detail table. Right? So this is how you can join two different tables and get the data out of it. Right? So this is about the options that you have within your schema in. Right, so on the schema out we have multiple options. At the table level you have cut, copy, paste. So you can do a quick find as you have on your left hand side. Right, so make current, forget about this new output column. You can create a new output column called as row number, keep the data type as integer, and in the mapping tab you always give a direct mapping from the source, or you define a function using which it has to be populated. So there are a few built-in functions. Once you practice on the tool, you'll know them by name. So I'm just populating generate row number by, so which will generate a row number for each and every record that it is creating. It's kind of an indexing on the table. So if you click on this column, you can see how it is getting populated. If you click on this column, you will see from where it is getting populated. Or if you click on this column, you will see from which table it is getting populated. So the way you select these columns, the mapping tab will give a definition from which table, which field it is getting populated. And you see three different types of columns here. One with a double arrow, which means it says that it is getting populated with a function. It's not a direct one-to-one mapping, but something else is happening on that column. So you see a double arrow here. So these are non-primary key columns which doesn't have any any key symbol on that one, and this is a primary key column. So now let us say I don't want to keep my products as a primary key, right? What you can do is select that column, right click and uncheck. So this is equivalent to your DML statement, alter table name, modify PK on that particular column, right? Or if you want to make any new output column as a primary key, you can select that column, right click and go for primary key option. You can make and unmake those columns as primary keys. Are the column position static, or we can move them up and down? So you can move them up and down, Adil. That's a good question. So let us say I want to get order ID and keep it here at the bottom of the list, or you want to put the freight in the third place. Sorry. You can drag and drop it on the second column and then say insert below. So it will ask you these options if you drag and drop it on a column. Either the system will try to understand if you are trying to remap that with some data from the source, or remap with data and data type, insert above that or insert below that, or is that just a mistake so you want to cancel it. Right, I can say insert below. So you can define the order in which your target table structure is required with the help of this query transformation. Alright, so these are the options. Okay, we're talking about the table level. Then you can do a quick find, a new output column. So we'll talk about these a little later, these three options, and these are anyways grayed out. We'll talk about that. XML and DTD we will talk a little later. So file formats and Hadoop files is nothing but you create a flat file structure using whatever there that is present in your schema out. So if you do a context menu on the column level, cut, copy, paste and delete, it gives you an option to delete just in case by mistake if you added a column and you don't want it to be present in the target structure, you can delete that. You can do a quick find. You can create a new output column. Leave these two right now. You can make a column as a primary key, or remove that primary key property on a column. You can make a particular column as optional so that when loading into that, the system will not mandatorily check for data on that. So it is like it's okay if you don't have data in that column. You're just trying to keep some columns as optional. You can do that. And the last option that you see here is the properties. Right. So this is where you can again go and check the primary key or uncheck the primary key option, change their data types, their lengths, the name of this one, and you can also define or map your input column to a context. For example, the postal code, the firm name, the locality, the name, the first name, last name. So these have some patterns, right? So you can define the content type of that data, especially when the data is flowing in. So you want it to be in this particular pattern, you can go and define these contents. Right, so these are the options that you have, all the options that you have in the schema out when you do a context menu. So when you practice, go and click on each and everything and see what exactly the system does and how it allows you to do. So in our next session, which is on Tuesday morning Indian time and Monday evening US time, we will see what we can do using these tabs. Right, what is mapping, what is select from, where we have already seen that, group by, order by, advanced and find. So probably we can do a lot using these tabs. So we'll see what we can do using this, how can we get functions and schema remapping and all those things. And if you have done some logic, so how can you go and modify that by clicking on this button. Right, so we'll see all these things in our next session, but before we call it a day, and if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask your questions on the topics that we discussed today on case, merge, and 50% of the query transformation. Guys, after 1 hour, I have a question. You guys are able to listen to me properly, or is that just me talking to a computer?
Yeah, we are listening.
Okay, yeah, because I did not get much questions today, so I just like good. So any questions today?
I have to practice on it, but I have a just a general question. There's a book from SAP Express Services, a comprehensive guide. Do you recommend reading the book, or like just following along with the videos is enough?
So I mean, it depends on what you're trying to look at, because for you to know this tool and start working on the projects, till complex level projects, I guess like these videos and whatever you can download from this help.sap.com/bods should be enough for you to know the tool, even to complete your certification. But there will be few areas that even I am not exposed to. So in those cases, when we want to understand it, the depth of it, then definitely, not immediately, but definitely, yes, in the future point of view, you can go through that SAP press releases, which will try to give us good information on these things.
You
Good actually. I bought from SAP Press.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
do you want to share it? Do you want to share the book if you have I mean, if you have purchased it, I mean, if the people want to purchase it, can we pool in together and buy the book?
Sure, sure. Sure, Adil.
My other question. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, Adil.
My question, I mean, like, usually when you look for the job opportunities, they have usually the companies that require more than knowing one tool. Do you know like what other softwares companies are looking for when you're looking for a job for in data services?
So the general expectations, like these days, in the olden days or golden days in software, I can say we used to have a functional layer, right? So these functional guys, they talk to the customers and tell us what to do, and technically we go and code it. These functional guys validate it, and then we give it to the customer. But somehow in this last few years, I haven't seen any functional team present in projects or their interaction with the customers. So all we are trying to do is like go and try to talk to the customer, get inputs from him, and try to code it, and then try to provide the output to them. But yeah, so as an add-on, if you are from an SAP background, so functional knowledge is good, or the knowledge on how you can navigate into an SAP system, how to log into, just give me a second. Sorry. So how to log into an SAP system, navigate to the data dictionary S11 transaction. So that will be an added advantage when you are working on SAP projects, or if you know about the IDOC structures, because some ABAPers, they will try to learn the ETL, so they know very well about the IDOC structures, maintenance, W21, W02 transactions, and all these things. So that will be an added advantage for them to look at data services, and also once the data is loaded, how this works. And for people from Oracle background, it will be pretty much easy for them to try to correlate this to their stored procedures, what they write, or they can go and look into the backend code of data services and try to easily understand what it is trying to do, or they can add their code in data services, because data services gives you a provision or a window where you can go ahead and write your code as well, right? You can do a push down operation. So on the performance optimization, if you are from an Oracle background or from an database background, that will really help you. Or if you're from a DBA background, that will really help you to understand how you can optimize the space on the backend databases when you're trying to create some tables, indexes, and table spaces, and what kind of authorization grants that you need to provide on those tables so that your jobs will run fast. So it's again depends on what kind of project that you are pitching into, and if you are working on some projects where the customers are looking at dashboarding, then data services is used as an ETL, and after that you can use business objects, enterprise as a universe, and you can start building your dashboards or reports on top of it, and then you can project them to the customer. So this is again a combination. As I say, I just can't restrict this to one project because these are the different areas on which I worked in as a DBA, as a Oracle consultant, where I created some store procedures, functions. Then on my SAP HANA projects, we loaded the data using data services, and on top of that, again, HANA as a combination, we created some information models which we exposed to the universe, and then did some reports on top of that. So it's again a combination. So whichever technology that you are in, that's definitely an added advantage to data services. So you can utilize that blend together.
Yeah, Rakesh.
Yeah, Chandra, go ahead.
ఈ డేటా షేర్ చేస్తున్నారు మాకు శాంపిల్ డేటా.
Oh yeah, నేను ఇప్పుడు పంపిస్తాను. Yeah.
అండ్ మీకు నేను ఫస్ట్ లో మిమ్మల్ని అడిగినప్పుడు హనా సర్వర్ ఇస్తా అన్నారు కదా మాకు.
మీరు ఒకసారి మీ ఎవరైతే వస్తున్నారో వాళ్ళతో మీరు కోఆర్డినేట్ చేయండి, బికాజ్
మాట్లాడితే వాళ్ళు మాకు ఓన్లీ డిఫాల్ట్ SQL సర్వర్ ఒకటి ఇచ్చారండి.
అంటే వాళ్ళు ఏది ఇస్తే అదే, బికాజ్ ఈ సర్వర్స్ అన్ని నాకు ఇదేం ఉండదు. సో ఐఎమ్ జస్ట్ కన్సర్న్డ్ అబౌట్ ద ట్రైనింగ్ పార్ట్. అండ్ నాకేంటంటే I purchase the server, even I purchase the server on a monthly basis because I have to work on a POCs and all these things. So ఆ నోట్ లో I'm probably teaching on a different server from which you have an access to. But ఒకసారి వాళ్ళకి చెక్ చేయండి. They will try to give you whatever the access that you are looking for. Probably you might end up paying a little more extra.
నేను ఆల్రెడీ పే చేసి బయట తీసుకున్నానండి. వీళ్ళని అడిగితే మేము ఇచ్చేది ఇదే అన్నారు వాళ్ళు.
Okay, probably yeah.
అడుగుతున్నారు.
Sorry?
3,000 అడుగుతున్నారు వీళ్ళు.
ఉంటాయండి, because the rates are pretty high. Because 3,000 కాదు, with HANA అంటే you probably end up paying 4,000 or 5,000 a month. So that happens. So
నేను బయట తీసుకున్నాను, అందుకనే వేరే చోట.
Okay.
నేను నా మెయిల్ పంపించాను, ఒకసారి దానికి పంపిస్తారా?
Yeah, sure అండి.
మెయిల్ పింగ్ చేస్తున్నాను.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. Alright, so yeah, I think we are good today, and have a wonderful weekend, guys, and take care, and see you back on next session on Monday night West time or Tuesday morning Indian time. So just practice on your, can you send it to me once? So sorry, I don't have your ID. Who's this? Adil? It says HTML user 5. Okay, Satya, I just sent it to Ramya, so Ramya should be sending it to you. But yeah, I will forward it to you again, just in case if you don't get it from me. Definitely you'll get it from your training coordinators. So don't worry about that. You should be getting these files in another 30 minutes. Right, but yeah, good thing is we kind of covered a lot of subjectives this week, so I recommend you guys to practice all these scenarios on the system, because probably I'm working on this tool from last 8 years, so I can tell you a beautiful story and I can just run it in a way that you will not see any errors. But yeah, so once you practice on the tool, you might do some different clicks that I could not in all these years, and probably you might get into new errors. So whenever you get an error, because I generally don't love to tell this, but you give an error number, then what exactly the error that you are getting, then description, how did you fix that? You can call this as a root cause. What is the cause for this error and what is the resolution? Don't ask me for this file because initially when I started learning this tool, I had an Excel with somewhere around 160 errors, and I started boasting about it because I used to be a champ when I started working as a developer on data services. I'm not boasting about it, but I used to fix errors like in fractional seconds because I have a sheet onto which I can go and refer that what is the error, what could be the possible root cause, and what could be the resolution. So I maintained this sheet when I was practicing, and people are so clever, they logged into my system and deleted that, and I don't have the sheet anymore, and I never maintained that on any papers or any system or any drives. I just kept them in my mind so that people can't go and delete it. But yeah, please, I recommend you to, once you are practicing, if you are getting any errors, take a screenshot, embed that in your Excel, keep this Excel, and do a rigorous practice in 2 weeks, and I can guarantee you that you can go and clear the interview the third week. Practice for 1 month, you can complete your certification with 85 or 90% for sure. And the third thing is you can start cracking your interviews pretty easily if you have these things. And once you get into the projects, you have a sheet like this. This will help you to fix a lot of issues in time. Right? There is no need for you to seek for help or rethink or retry, try to recreate the scenario and fix it. But you already have a scenario and you know how to fix this. You can refer to the sheet and quickly fix this one. So
What
this
is
will
that?
help you. Sorry?
What is RC?
RC stands for root cause. What is the reason for this error? Right? You can take a scenario. What is the exact description of the error? And what is the other description of the error? What is the root cause of it? The resolution one, how could you fix that one? Resolution two, what is an alternate way in which you can fix this? So if you can have the sheet built, you can definitely speed up your learning curve on data services, and that will help you a lot. Because the moment I say this, people start pinging me saying that it's okay, you don't share it to everybody, but you share it to me. I will try to keep it a secret, but trust me, I don't have that sheet with me. You guys practice on your own, get your sheet, and if you want to share between yourself, you're most welcome to do that. But yeah, I don't have any of that sheet. Alright guys, so have a wonderful weekend ahead. Take care and practice well. Just at least spend 2 to 3 hours a day. That will suffice to complete all these exercises that we have seen. Right, till then, take care. Bye for now.
Thank you. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. Bye.